And never forget the moment that I not just saw the data, but understood what it was. Once it owns your phone, it owns everything.
It can access the camera, the microphone,
your videos, your photographs.
It can see what you're writing,
the GPS location,
your emails.
It can do everything that the user can do and more.
In July 2021, an international consortium of over 80 journalists from 17 news organizations broke the story of a spyware scandal that continues to reverberate around the world. At the center of the scandal was a leaked list of 50,000 phone numbers. Reaching into every corner of civil society, the investigation revealed that the list included activists, journalists, lawyers, and political leaders who had been unlawfully targeted by potential client governments of cyber surveillance company NSO Group. This is the story of how Amnesty International's Security Lab played a crucial role in exposing the forensic evidence that proved beyond doubt that the data could be connected to cyber attacks from the military-grade spyware system known as Pegasus.
What our team focuses on is investigating targeted attacks and targeted surveillance against human rights defenders, civil society, and journalists around the world.
The Security Lab began investigating NSO Group in 2018 when Pegasus was discovered to have been used to target an Amnesty International staff member.
Now, if they can target one of the biggest human rights organizations in the world without accountability, just think what they think they can do to other human rights defenders. And to me, it infuriated me.
As a result of this attack, the Security Lab had the clues they needed to discover more about NSO Group and its customers.
They managed to identify approximately 600 domain names that NSO Group's customers were using to deliver these kinds of attacks. We also found a handful of other activists who had also received similar links at the same time. On one of these individuals' devices, we found traces of a new kind of attack.
It used to be that for Pegasus to get infected on your phone, you would need to click on a link, something related to your work. Here, you're really going to enjoy this. It was very manipulative. And then we saw an escalation to what's called the zero click.
Zero click meant that Pegasus was able to install itself on a target's phone without any interaction from the user, making this spyware even more dangerous and harder to detect.
There's some smart technologists on the other side working for NSO who spend a lot of time and effort trying to create these spyware tools, try to operate them in a way that isn't detectable. And so it's definitely an interesting mental battle to try and understand what they're doing, understand what kind of mistakes they might have made.
Between 2018 and 2020, the number of Pegasus victims identified by Amnesty International, the University of Toronto Citizen Lab, and other partner organizations was continuing to grow.
Even if you haven't been totally owned and there's no proof of infection, the fact that you've even been targeted can have a major psychological impact.
They knew everything I said. I knew that it was really in danger.
They are threats. Of course you have fear.
On te met devant les gens et on te déshabille. C'est une violence. C'est une violence.
Despite this growing body of evidence and the damage being inflicted on human rights defenders, the response to concerns about NSO's activities had been limited.
We had been talking about this issue alongside many other civil society partners for a really long time. And we had essentially driven home the point that this is an industry and this is a company that by way of transparency, it provides very little information. And so that adds to the atmosphere of impunity.
But with the list of 50,000 phone numbers, this was about to change. Investigative journalists Forbidden Stories were the lead organization on an investigation that included The Guardian, Le Monde, and The Washington Post, with Amnesty International as the technical partner.
We've put so much effort into building the expertise to be able to do this kind of research. And if it had not been for those sort of years of work and years of trying to understand how we can do human rights work a little bit differently in this sphere, we wouldn't have been as fit for purpose as we were.
So what was the reaction at the Security Lab when they first saw the data?
who were those phone numbers? Who did they belong to? What did this mean? I mean, the questions that just started rolling through my head were epic. But every time we got even like a little bit of an answer about what we were looking at, that feeling of like, this is important. This is really important. It just grew and grew and grew.
It really drove home the fact that this industry is out of control and that we need to rein it in because it has massive implications for human rights worldwide.
Once the investigations into the list of phone numbers were underway, it was essential to step up security measures.
Not only are you working on a very sensitive human rights project, you're working on a sensitive human rights project that concerns one of the largest spyware vendors in the world.
The more we realized what we were looking at, the more we realized that states wouldn't want this information to get out, that NSO Group certainly wouldn't want this information to get out.
For all of our meetings, we were making sure that we didn't have our regular mobile phones or any regular laptops in the same room.
Then through the course of our investigation, we actually found out that a couple of the journalists that we were working with had in fact been targeted.
As the investigation continued, journalists undertook the painstaking task of identifying who the phone numbers belonged to. But how many of these people had actually been attacked by Pegasus? Based on their groundbreaking work, the security lab had the tools to provide the answer.
We developed some forensic tools for extracting data from an iPhone. And so over time, we began to identify more and more of these unknown suspicious process names, and we were able to tie these process names back to the Pegasus spyware itself.
What that meant is they were actually able to build tools that we could then use to remotely access backups of phones and as quickly as possible, do an assessment of whether or not there were traces of Pegasus on that phone.
This was a turning point in the investigation. By July 2021, of the 67 phones that the security lab had been given access to, 37 showed evidence of infiltration by Pegasus. As well as 14 heads of state, the wider investigation revealed that the phone numbers of at least 180 journalists in 20 countries were listed in the data. The Pegasus Project also named the 11 countries identified as potential NSO Group clients. And Pegasus was found to have been used to target family members of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi prior to his murder by agents of the Saudi state. The forensic tools developed by the security lab have since been made open source and installed over 70,000 times, allowing users across the globe to add to the growing list of confirmed attacks and shedding new light on the scale of illegal cyber surveillance. So with all of this knowledge and all of the secrecy, what was it like when the Pegasus Project was ready to go public?
Are people going to see how important this is, not just for, civil society and human rights defenders around the world, but for like all of us? This is a major privacy issue. This is something that big tech corporations need to look at, that journalists need to look at, that everybody needs to look at. And is this going to be the moment we hope it is to be able to pivot towards actual change?
With repercussions that continue to reverberate around the world, the revelations of the Pegasus Project have been explosive.
As a result of the investigation, a number of steps have been taken in the right direction. The US government placed NSO Group on its entity list for malicious activity. Investigations are open in Hungary, Belgium, France. The Supreme Court of India has set up a technical committee to look into Pegasus targeting. There's many more, but I'll stop there.
Most recently, thanks to the work of Citizen Lab, Apple has filed a lawsuit against NSO Group to hold it accountable for the surveillance and targeting of Apple users. In the face of these revelations, NSO has continued to maintain its position that it provides authorized governments with technology that helps them combat terror and crime.
I'm thrilled to see that the world did take notice, right? People do realize that this is important.
I feel like this is now crunch time, and hence Amnesty is calling for a moratorium on the sale, transfer, export and use of spyware until a proper human rights regulatory regime is put in place.
I think people have gotten over a little bit of this tech apathy that we see all the time. Tech it's too big, it's too scary, we can't regulate it, it's out of control. Not true, right? This stuff is built by humans and it can be regulated by humans. There is no difference.
There's much more to be done. Investigations need to be held into providing victims with the right remedy, and perpetrators behind this should be held to account.
So we need to keep exposing this work. We need to keep advocating for regulation, and we need to keep reminding everybody that there is hope. We can change this system. Your rights can be protected. Your phone does not need to be a weapon against your privacy.